Do you remember the story in the Bible where Jacob wrestles with God? Remember, God like kind of grabs him by the hip and they wrestle all night. And at the end of this thing, God changes his name, and he changes his name from Jacob to Israel. And if you have peeled that thing back or been taught, you realize that Jacob means trickster. He was a trickster, right? He tricked his brother out of his inheritance, which is why he actually met with God. He's running. And so as he wrestles with God, God gives him what he needs, and what he gives him is a new name. I'm going to rename you. I'm going to rename you Israel. And so if you've ever had a name change, you realize that part of a name change, there also comes an identity change, right? So when I got married, I went from being Maria Acebus to Maria Reynolds, Doug Reynolds' wife. And so that came with an identity change. I couldn't act like I was single anymore because now I'm a wife. And I'm Aunt Riri to a lot of children. And that becomes an identity role for me. Like my nephew knows that when he comes to Aunt Riri's house, there's a special little drawer in my kitchen. And he gets that door wide open and he tears into that and he finds all the candies that he loves. I can be Aunt Riri to him because it's a role that I'm playing for him. I'm not his mommy, so I can give him all the sweet treats because I'm Aunt Riri. So what I'm saying is that every time that you have a name change, there is an identity change that comes with that. There's a behavior set that kind of comes along with that almost naturally. And for Jacob, if you read the very next passage, he tricks his brother Esau. So his name has been changed from trickster to Israel. And in the very next passage, when he meets his brother, he tricks him even about the location that he's going to go and reside in. And God pierced me, and he says, sometimes old habits are hard to break. And sometimes when your name has been changed and your identity has been changed, God sees you differently. You have to see yourself differently. You have to see yourself through the lens of that identity. And the day that you accepted the Lord as your Savior, the day that your heart aligned with God's, He gave you a new name. It was son and daughter. You have to look at yourself through that lens. And when you do, there's a whole set of behaviors that just naturally come with seeing yourself in that way. When you start to see yourself in that way, then you realize, I am worthy of the blessing of God, not because I'm good, but because He's good, right? So I just urge you today, know who you are, right? Know who you are to Him. Know that your identity has been changed, and start to press in and see yourself the way that He sees you.